So unions have a lot of work to overcome in society and so forth. And as long as they're focused on pee breaks, and as long as they're not focused on class struggle unionism, they're going to be highly ineffective, unfortunately. And that sucks. It's
Yeah.
tough, but it's true.
Yeah. I guess my thoughts on general strike, which I definitely like the idea of general strike, is that everybody has a different lane in that. So yeah, labor is not the component it would be in a place where we had much more union participation, but they have their own element of it. But I think the building up of community infrastructure and coalition so that you can have those supports, that's the key thing. I've been saying that for a while. And that was the difference with like the miners in Alabama versus the Amazon workers in Alabama in terms of strength. Like the miners had so much community infrastructure. They had a fund. They were able to sustain themselves. And people don't realize that. However, from Sean Fain's perspective, I understand that they need to at least get them all on the same rotation. And that's just their end of it, but what else? I mean, that's all they can do is work their end of it, just like we can work our end of it.
There's a saying, and I'm going to butcher this, but I'm sure there's somebody out there far more union oriented than I. I mean, I care very much about the labor movement, but I'm not in a union. I don't work in a place that has unions, and we're not in a position as contractors to really organize in the way that we would like. We'd be gone instantly. But one of the things that they say is for union leaders to never get ahead of the rank and file. And I've read this in many different, history books and union, theory, all kinds of different places, articles, you name it. And what's happening is that the union leadership is got some forward thinking people. They're terrified of losing the NLRB. They still believe in electoralism, sadly. But as a result of that, they're like, well, we know if we allow Trump in there, in their mind, that will get rid of the NLRB. That is one of the few things that we have in our disposal, which I think has already pretty much been gutted anyway by, the Supreme Court. But regardless, they're looking at that and they're saying, hey, I'd rather not endorse anyone as a union and give ourselves, this is the thinking anyway, give us a chance to get to that general strike. And, without it becoming so hostile that we can't. I'm of the mindset that unfortunately Democrats, and whether this is, the way that they want it up top or not, I don't know, but rank and file people, when the Democrats are in office, they go back to sleep.
Oh yeah.
They have 0% fight.
Yes.
So as a result of their worthlessness, their pathetic beliefs, their pathetic lives, that they just go back to sleep when a Democrat's in office, it makes everything else just not matter, right? So, and if you aren't radicalized to fight back of what you're seeing now, chances are it's going to require a horrible event in your life or something else to get you to finally see the world for what it is. And a lot of these people, they're doing pretty well, and they're not willing to yield a moment of their comfort in defense of someone that, that whole Bernie saying, screw Bernie, he sold us out. But that whole, what would you do? Would you help or do something for someone you don't know or some bullshit like that, right? I mean, like, here you go. I mean, you're witnessing firsthand our country using the power of its production engine to provide. Think about this. If you're in a war and you're at the back end of the supply chain, just because you're not pulling the trigger doesn't mean that when you roll those Jeeps out there with your bombs and stuff to the front lines, that you're not part of a fucking war, right? Well, the U.S. is selling and providing all the weapons to Israel to do the shit that they're doing. So if you don't think we're at war, if you don't think we are fundamentally handing the gun to the killer that's slaughtering children in Palestine, then there's a real serious problem here, a real serious problem. And again, so the only time these fools get upset and aroused and out in the streets or willing to do anything is when Donnie Tiny Hands freaking tweets something, or if his comb over blows weird off the airplane, they'll tweet about it for at least a good solid month. That's at least a month's worth of content for them. Okay, so we need Trump. We need Trump to get them awake, sadly. I mean, I hate to say it like that. I mean, I don't believe in any of this shit, but I don't believe in them. And what the fuck?
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of pathetic...
Thing that bothers me about this, what bothers me the most about it is that they didn't endorse Trump. Not because I like Trump. I don't like Trump. But if you're telling me the majority of their members support that, then that is what they should be doing. And so that's the only thing to me that is remotely like controversial about this.
And that's also why I'm not buying this bullshit that all these locals are all of a sudden endorsing Kamala. It's like,
no.
Were you actually taking votes of your rank and file? Like literally on the fly. Remember, union halls generally only meet once a month on very specific days.
And not all of them go, by the way, they handle it the same way. At the top of every group is somebody making decisions for everyone.
Hey, get in here right now. We're taking a vote as a union on whether or not to endorse in this presidential race, and who are we going to endorse? And all these locals coming out saying, well, we are endorsing Kamala Harris. It's like, no, you mean the bosses are endorsing her, because for them, this is a career. This isn't about the livelihoods of what's in the best interest of working people.
No, they don't care.
And so,
well, let me ask this though, because do you think that had the Teamsters members predominantly supported Kamala, that they would have just endorsed her?
Listen, I look at it this way, and this is what's
because I'd like to think they wouldn't want to piss off their Trump people too.
Sure, and I think that's the thing. It's like with my guy that I know, he's like, yeah, a lot of guys are Trump supporters. A lot of them are Trump and Bernie supporters. That's what they're populist. They're working class. They do not like the bougie bullshit of politics, and the Democrats literally have it spewing out of their ears. Like they can't help it. And that type of the people that thumb their nose at people, it always, stuffy liberals to me have always been the most, with all due respect, and I mean this with all due respect, the most pathetic people in the political classes, because they are the most incompetent out of anybody. They could never change a tire. They couldn't change oil.
But the good news is they're all the ones that are going to die first in the apocalypse.
Well,
they're all the ones that are going to be, all the blue people on the coast, they're all going to be
They always
dead.
want to point fingers at others and say, oh, how, and if it's like, what, because you're well read that makes you somebody special?
Wait till there's no power.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a problem. And and I would say, Steve, the most interesting part about this is that this is the first time in 3 decades that the union has not endorsed a presidential candidate. Would you care to guess the reason why they didn't endorse the Democratic candidate back in 1996? Well, I could tell you why, because I happen to pass this really terrible policy called NAFTA and normal trade relations with China. So I was like, yeah, fuck the labor. And that's exactly what happened.
But it's pitiful.
Baba.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is there something really fascinating here?
Just the fact that they did an internal poll and that 60% of their membership that was polled said that they support Donald Trump and 34% supports Harris. Now, when it was Biden, Biden was ahead, but not by much. It was by like a few points. It was very close. But in this case, it's a complete sweep. Now, is it entirely possible that the reason why that this is happening is that there's a lot of people within the labor movement, even in, a very rough and tough union like the Teamsters, that do not like the fact that Kamala was basically given the crown that she didn't earn, and that they do not want to have this appointed person as their president, that they would have preferred a floor fight. Remember, they had to do their glitz and glamour show in Chicago. That was much more important than doing actual democratic process on the convention floor. Let's have 5 candidates here. Let's figure out who wants to be president. And let's be honest, we all know who they are. You got Newsom, you got Whitmer, you got Pritzker, you got Shapiro, and you got Bashir. And there's no question that they all want that brass ring. But no, let's just give it to and Buttigieg. Sorry, totally forgot about Pete Buttigieg. He don't want to wait.
He's the same as Kamala, though. They're the same.
And so rather than do a floor fight and actually show that the democratic process is alive and well, they wanted their grand spectacle of pretending like the Democratic Party is totally united and on board with everything that's going on. Well, you know what? I think the Teamsters doing this, actually, this is like a kick in the side of the head. Like, they are really shocked that this happened. I really believe that. Now, of course, you would agree that they're just completely aloof to reality, but I do think that that O'Brien sticking to his guns and just not giving the Democratic establishment what they wanted, like that really shook them. Like they're really shocked that somebody would do that. Because for me, what I'm hoping is that it inspires others to do the same thing and say, I'm not doing this shit no more. Like, that's it. I'm thinking that more than anything else is what they're the most concerned about.
I don't think it really matters at all. I'm struggle busting with finding the care button here. I mean, I really think that this is just more about, like, you're so fucking stupid that you believe we have a democracy. We're just going to do this thing. And we don't really care where the chips fall, because what do you want, Trump? And the idea of what do you want, Trump, is the standard calling card of a vote blue sycophant. It is literally the only words that they understand how to speak. It's pathetic. And so when you think about that,
I have a proposition. I think that when those people say, well, do you want Trump? I'm just going to go, yeah. I'm just going to say, yes, I do. Because at the end of the day, and I would not vote for this person, I'm voting for Dr. West. But at the end of the day, do I think that 4 years of Trump is potentially worse than 8 to 12 years of whatever neoliberal Clintonian shit's going to come out of Kamala? No, actually, and with everyone going back to sleep, while with Trump, everybody is on him like white on rice.